Hello everyone, back tuning in to the second season one roundup for the spring of 2018. So back on New Year's Eve, we released the first season one roundup for the spring of 2018. Quite an interesting update. The long-range season models were generally suggesting an unsettled season actually. They were going for quite a bit of rain. A lot of those models. But we only had one model, which was Jamstech, that was suggesting a colder than average season could be possible. All the other models were going for above average temperatures this spring. But generally the consensus was for an unsettled spring. I didn't have all that many models for that update though. We've got more to add to the mix for this second seasonal model roundup. And we'll see what all of these models are showing from these various MET agencies from around the world for your first video on this Sunday morning. Just to say that later on today, the Gazmo this Sunday roundup will be released. As usual, we'll be looking at things like sea surface temperature anomalies, solar activity, have a look at some of the indexes as well, and then weather next week to 10 days also. So that'll be coming up with you probably just after lunchtime. So I'll get on with the season model roundup in a second. Just to say, it can be quite a longish video, so you can't watch it all in one go. It will be kept here at website indefinitely. We'll place it later on today on the spring 2018 updates and forecast page. There'll be a written summary that goes with this season one roundup as well, so you can come back to the website and watch the video whenever you want, and also you'll be able to read that written report as well. Without further ado, let's get on with your second spring 2018 season model roundup. We're going to begin by having a look at the probability forecast from the Russian Meteorological Agency. Now, just to say that the first three models we're looking at are just covering February, March, April. We fall short of the full spring period with these first three models. So we cover the end of winter and to the start and the middle part of the spring. Next month, these models will also be covering the full spring period, but for this update, they just cover February to April. So this is what the temperature probability is from the Russian model for the early spring period. And you'll see that around the UK and much of the Northern Atlantic, we've got these blue colours, which is actually probability for below normal temperatures. But the UK itself are in those white colours, which means that we've got low probability and perhaps erring on the side of average. But I think when we factor into that much of the Northern Atlantic is coming out with increased probability, strong probability actually, of below normal temperatures, I think we can say that the Russian model is, the idea is that the probability for us is either to be average or colder than average. There's certainly not much of a signal there for this early spring period. Anyway, remember this is covering February to April. Certainly not much indication there of a substantially warmer than average February to April period. In terms of precipitation, this is how things are looking. So the probability is very close to average for the UK. Below normal precipitation is probable for much of sort of central southern Europe, so down to France, Spain and Portugal. And then further north, it's just near normal probability, really, although a little bit wetter than average or above average probability of above average rainfall for Scandinavia and also out in the Atlantic as well. Not a strong signal for precipitation, but I reckon overall the Russian model is close to predicting quite a cold early spring here. So that starts us off. Let's move to APEC. Now, this is a collaboration of various MET agencies, but I think the driving force behind this is the South Korean MET agency. This is the 500 millibar height anomaly for February to April, and this one is depicting below average heights out to the northwest, and then change colour above average heights down to the south, so we've just got quite a flat sort of westerly flow coming through from off the Atlantic for this early spring period. This means that the temperature anomalies are coming out a little bit mild on average. It's not as warm as it is across much of sort of Eurasia, where it's coming out with very warm temperature anomalies. For the UK, it is closer to average, but still generally above average temperatures being predicted for February to April from APEC. And in terms of precipitation, overall on the wetter than average side, so quite a mild but also unsettled and fairly wet signal for February to April from APEC. And then we go through to the JMA. Now, we had a look at the 3-monthly JMA forecast in a video the other day. So we can't go through all of the information that you can get from the JMA. I'll just summarise for you. Essentially, it's going for quite a changeable spring, and it does hint at the chance of some colder weather in both February and April. I say spring, but actually this is, again, covering just the February to April period. So February is going for the chance of colder weather, April going for chance of some colder weather, March I should say looks like a milder month. We've just got the 3 monthly combined charts here. So this is the 500 millibare height anomaly for February to April. British Isles in the top right hand corner of the chart as you're looking at it, and it's placing for the 3 months, and this is a 3 monthly anomaly covering February to April. It's placing below average heights over the UK with above average heights out in the Atlantic. There's a trough in the 500 millibar flow doing something a bit like that. With the temperature anomaly for February to April, it's coming out close to or a little bit milder than average. Remember, that's disguising the fact that there could be some cold weather in there, particularly, interestingly, in April. The precipitation anomaly is unsettled, as you'd expect, with a trough within the 500 millibar flow. So precipitation anomaly is coming out above average. You can have a quick look at the mean wind direction for this February to April period. It's always hard to make these black lines out, but they're generally coming from a northwesterly direction, depicting quite a cool and unsettled early spring period. So that's the 3 models that only go up to April. Everything else that you see in this video will cover the full spring 2018 period. We're going to start off with the Brazilian model, which with the 500 millibar heights from the Brazilian model in South America, going from March through to May, covering the full spring 2018 period. This anomaly chart always does things a bit the opposite way to any other height anomaly that I'm aware of, because blue is extrapolating to above average heights and red is extrapolating to below average heights, low pressure. Any other height anomaly is always the other way around. With that. So, the model is going for above average heights to be to our south, pretty much of the central Atlantic. It looks like there's an area of below average heights, or lower heights, I should probably say, around Scandinavia and to the north of the British Isles. So I reckon we're probably doing something a bit like that with flow and with the jet stream, fairly Atlantic driven, but potentially a little bit cooler. So have a look at the precipitation, the temperature anomaly, I should say. That is coming out a little bit milder than average, but actually just to our north and northeast, it's close to average, which for these charts is actually quite cool. So it is going for still a slightly milder than average spring. And no real signal for precipitation either, so rather an odd update here from the Brazilian model this month. Very weak signals for both temperature and for precipitation. A little bit on the milder than average side, though, still being depicted there. We go north to Canada. This is CanSIPS from tropicaltidbits.com. Find a link to Tropical Tidbits on the links page. This is the mean sea level pressure anomaly for the spring of 2018, placing in an area of above average heights over and just to the south of the country, with below average pressure up to the north. So we've got high pressure to our south, low pressure to the north, and we're bringing a westerly jet stream probably to the north of the UK, rather like that. This means that the temperature anomaly for the spring is coming out above average with the CANSIPS model. How often do we say that with this model? And then in terms of the precipitation anomaly, it's coming out a little bit wetter than average to the north and a little bit drier than average to the south. Actually, for the UK, the precipitation anomaly is very close to average, so fairly weak signals again from CANSIPS. This is the 200 millibar height anomaly from Patal Peng. So this is an analogue based forecast. What Patal does is take a look at the sea surface temperature anomalies in any given month. In this instance, he's looked at the sea surface temperature anomalies in December last month, and then from that created an analogue based forecast comparing back to past years with similar sea surface temperature anomalies, and then created this forecast going forward. So this is the 200 millibar height anomaly for the spring of 2018. We're placing above average heights, I should say. Patal is placing above average heights over and to the east of the UK. Looks like there should be some sort of trough in the Atlantic, so probably doing something a bit like that, but flowing with the jet stream. The upshot is that we probably have quite a mild and fairly dry spring there, I would have thought. The temperature anomaly from Patal's analogues coming out warmer than average for this spring, as it is for many parts of Europe as well. And the precipitation anomaly is coming out drier than average for this spring. Let's just check to make sure I've got that right. Yes, I have. So the precipitation anomaly is coming out drier than average. A warm, dry spring from Patal Peng for this month's update. And I think this is what Patal was going for last month, actually, interestingly. So it's quite a strong signal from Patal Peng's analogues for a fairly warm and dry spring ahead. Haven't got the NASA model again this month. I'm not sure what's happened with NASA, but hasn't updated for a couple of months now, rather frustratingly. Hopefully it'll be back on stream for our third and final seasonal model roundup for the spring of 2018 next month. We'll go through to the CFS V2 next then. And this 700 millibar height anomaly with below average heights to our northwest, above average heights to our south and southwest. Looks like we should be doing something like that with the flow and with the jet stream as well. Temperature anomalies are coming out milder than average this spring across all parts of Europe, particularly northern and eastern parts of Europe, coming out with a very warm temperature anomaly this spring. In the west, it is actually closer to average. It's closer to normal, but still above average, even for the UK, Ireland, France, Spain, and Portugal. And then in terms of the precipitation anomaly, that is coming out a little bit above average generally, particularly for northern and western parts of the UK. So it goes for a mild and fairly unsettled spring with an Atlantic driven type signal. Let's have a look at the ECMWF next. This is from the Copernicus website, which is a new website that is depicting both the ECMWF and the Meteo France long-range seasonal models. These used to be highly exclusive and weren't publicly available, but now they are very much online. So this is the mean sea level pressure anomaly from the ECMWF model. This used to be really exclusive content just a few months ago. So this is mean sea level pressure anomaly from the ECMWF for the spring of 2018, and you'll see that it's actually placing an area of above average heights close to the UK, right? As its mean sea level pressure, I should say, it's actually placing an area of high pressure pretty much over the UK as an anomalous ridge for this spring. And that means that the jet stream will be doing something like that. That looks a pretty decent signal, actually, from the ECM seasonal model. Temperature anomalies are coming out warmer than average for all parts of Europe. The British Isles is actually closer to average, but I mean all parts of Europe are coming out with above average temperatures this spring if the ECM model is right. And then the EC precipitation anomaly is looking like that. And I have to check the scale. Where is it? It's on the top. So the model is actually showing a very, very slightly drier than average signal for this spring. So some ways similar to what Patal Penny is showing, I suppose, with a fairly mild and dry and really quite pleasant spring, likely if the EC seasonal model is correct. This is the Meteo France long-range model. Again, this is mean sea level pressure. This one has above average pressure, I should say, to the south of the UK, with below average pressure, and quite strongly below average pressure up to the north. And that means we're probably bringing the jet stream through the country rather like that. So it's a similar signal to what the ECM seasonal model is showing, but it's more unsettled. It's a more unsettled signal with the mean sea level pressure anomaly. That means temperatures are coming out closer to average. This is a cooler model, I think, compared to the EC MWF seasonal model. This one is always seems to be slightly closer to average with the temperatures. So we're near normal with temperatures, not just for the UK, but also many parts of Europe. Actually, in terms of the scale, on the Copernicus website, it comes out, where Hadbat Whitehair, it comes out as no signal, essentially. So you can either say that's going for average temperatures, or it just doesn't have a signal for temperature. But certainly not much sign of substantially warmer than average temperatures this spring, which is at odds with the ECM, which is showing a strong signal for warmer than average temperatures this spring. And in terms of precipitation, actually it's coming out a little bit above average with the rainfall this spring. So I think the Meteo France model is cooler and it's more unsettled for this spring compared to the ECM, which is warmer and also quite high pressure dominated, so quite dry for the spring as well. Beijing Climate Centre next, and this is 200 millibar height anomaly, I should say, and this one is showing above average heights, again, centering around the UK. So this is a little bit of a trend. It is a little bit of a change from the first update, when most of the models in the first update were quite unsettled and low pressure driven. This update has shifted more, I think, towards a high pressure dominated scenario for the spring, albeit not all models are going for that. But the Beijing Climate Centre is placing an area of above average heights, high pressure over the UK, or very close to the UK. Temperature anomalies, though, are rather cool, really. They're close to average, maybe even hinting at being a little bit cooler than average as well. Certainly, again, nothing to get particularly excited about for this spring with the temperatures point of view. So not only have we shifted a little bit more anticyclonic with this second seasonal model roundup, I think we've also shifted a little bit cooler as well with some of these models. Now, with large area of above average heights and high pressure close to the UK, you'll expect a dry spring, and that is indeed what model is showing, with substantially below average rainfall being forecast. JAMSTEC next. This is the temperature anomaly for the spring of 2018 from JAMSTEC. Look at this, still coming out colder than average. Now, what normally happens with this model, you remember I said at the start of this video that last month's first season model roundup, JAMSTEC was the only model to be going for colder than average temperatures. And what normally happens is that 3 months out, the JAMSTEC model will be colder than average for the season. And then as you get closer to the season, so as we do the second, and then particularly the third and final update, JAMSTEC will shift to a milder and warmer direction. That has not happened, though, this month. It's still going for this second season model roundup, the same as it was with the first season model roundup. It's still going for colder than average temperatures. So quite interesting. Be really fun to see what JAMSTEC is showing when we do the third and final update next month. Will it keep that colder than average temperature signal when we do next month's update? That's going to be very interesting to see. The precipitation anomaly from the JAMSTEC model is going for close to average precipitation. Really, it's drier than average up to the north, and it's wetter than average down to the south. So this looks like rather a negative North Atlantic oscillation type pattern that it's going for, with high pressure probably around here and low pressure down here, and that would leave us with sort of northerly and easterly winds, which is the reason that the temperature anomaly is coming out cold and average. Notice many central parts of Europe also wetter than average, so probably low pressure through there too. That's quite a cold update, I think, from JAMSTEC. It will be really interesting what that's showing next month. And then finally we come to our very own GLOW C5 UK Met Office model. This is mean sea level pressure, and it's going for just generally quite low pressure to be around much of sort of the North Atlantic and much of Europe as well. The temperature anomaly is substantially milder or warmer than average, not just for the UK but for most of Europe too. And the precipitation anomaly is wetter than average. So it continues with its idea that we had last month of an unsettled, wet, but also pretty mild spring for the spring of 2018. And that's it. That's all your models for the second of the trilogy of the season model roundups. And what can we take from this update? Well, there's a couple of things I think we can take from it. The first one is that we've now got quite a split. I suspect it's around 50-50 between the models that are going for a very unsettled spring, such as that one, UK Met Office, and the models that are seeing a more anticyclonic situation this spring. So that's a change on the first update. And I suppose you would say that some of these models, particularly, has shifted onto the drier side of things and more anticyclonic side of things. Although, bear in mind, that is still a 50-50 split. Also, the temperature signal is weaker now. Still, overall, I think most of these models are above average with the temperatures, but not as strongly so as we had in last month's first update. And we've now got a few models there that are indicating a chance of something a little bit cooler this spring, if not cold. The only model that's going for a particularly cold spring is JAMSTEC, which is interesting because it was doing that last month and it's still doing that this month, which is quite unusual. It hasn't shifted as it normally does, milder. But that's the only model that's going actually below average. But several of these models now are closer to average and near normal, I suppose you would say, with their temperature anomalies. So I think next month's third and final update will definitely be the critical one. Will JAMSTEC keep that below average temperature anomaly? Will we see any more models shifting below average? And will we continue to trend more towards the high pressure dominated side of things for the spring as well? All will be revealed with next month's third and final seasonal model roundup. That will probably be released on the final Saturday of February. Not sure what day that is, but the final Saturday of February will probably be when we release the third and final seasonal model roundup for the spring of 2018. And then the following day, the final Sunday of February, that is when we will release the GazWeathers.com spring 2018 forecast. Between now and then, we've got more analogues updates to do. We'll have some analogues for you this time next week, same time, same place. So come back and have a look at those analogues. And then when we get to the spring forecast at the end of February, we'll put it all together and we'll see what we think could happen for the weather this spring. Right, so that's that done and dusted. Come back later on for the GazWeathers Sunday roundup. There may be other videos as well today, so just keep checking back for more. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.